everybody out there in recovery land.
Hi, we live, by the way. Hi, I'm Haiti, and this is...
I'm Felice, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery.
And I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery, and I'm also so blessed and grateful to have made it back from New York during this crazy weather.
It's crazy weather out here, you
We
guys.
swam here tonight. It was a long swim, but we made it.
And that's the phone.
Yeah. So this is really the professional studio of While Wait for Recovery. So... okay, sorry.
Excuse Haley. So this is our Wednesday night meeting. It's not as serious as our Sunday morning meeting is, obviously. Our Sunday morning meeting is an amazing recovery meeting where we share our experience and strength and hope with each other with a group of people here at the house and with all of you guys out there. And Wednesday night, we're really not that together. So what we do on Wednesday night is we just chat about something that's been on our mind. And tonight we're going to chat about when Haiti just came home from New York and she was spending time with her family, and we were having a conversation about when other people absolutely know that they know how to run your life better than you do. And so obviously we're talking about when other people think that they actually have control over your actions. And when that happens, it allows us to take a look at how we are ourselves and how silly it is when we believe that we have control over other people's actions. So, you know, we have these ties, especially with our family, and we go and we look, you know, we look the way we look and we act the way that we do, and sometimes we kind of get picked on, like, oh my God, you lost so much weight and now you're so skinny, and are you sure that you're eating? And you know, if you just do this, and if you did this, and if you did this, and you did this, and when that happens, a lot of times it's super annoying for us. And it's super annoying for us, especially new in recovery, because we haven't learned yet that we need to accept everybody else for where they are and not let that make us crazy.
Right, and also not take it on so that we relapse as well, which is the other thing, because by other people, I find as I've shifted in recovery, the more I've gone into the process of looking after my own health and being healthy and doing the things that really make me happy, essentially, other people are still where they are. They haven't changed or shifted, even though I've changed. And not taking on, not going back into that same type of person that I was in that dance that I always had with them for many, many years. Because some of these people, the relationships are years old. Some of them are family. They've been that way my whole life. And all of a sudden, to make a shift, they still are who they are. They're still reacting the way that they're reacting. And just because I'm changing doesn't mean that they necessarily are going to.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And the thing is, so when we talk about meeting people where they are, it's understanding that just because I've changed doesn't mean that you've changed. And just because I look at things differently doesn't mean that you do. And just because I look at myself differently and now I have boundaries and I'm doing things that are more healthy for myself doesn't mean that you understand, that your family or your friends or whatever understand and respect those boundaries, because they never had to before. So they're going to act the way that they act. It's us understanding, and that's why that Notes from the Universe this morning was so amazing, because it talked about that as well. But it's understanding that people are still where they are, and if we can look at them where they are and say, hey, I understand where they are because I was there too, and just wish them the best instead of taking it on, which is what you're saying, and not taking their caca into our life.
And also, as being an emotional overeater and a compulsive overeater, and knowing that about myself, my first go-to would always be the food. So whenever I'm in those situations that I'm dealing with other people telling me things about me and how I should be acting, which we really know at this stage is more about them than about me.
It's only about them, by the way.
But I always took it on. So that became my excuse to be able to use, to eat, to abuse. And all of a sudden being able to see that in a different perspective makes me react differently as well, because I know my health at this stage is my primary goal, is the most important thing. So I can either go back and start hitting that refrigerator and start going into the old habits of binging and using and abusing, or I could actually take a step back and go, do you know what? I have a choice in this situation where I can either do what my default is, which is really going and beating myself up because people are telling me what to think about myself or how I should be behaving. Or I could go, do you know what? I'm not doing this. I don't need to be right. I can walk away without taking it on. I'm needing to be right or needing to react to them because it's their thing.
Right. And again, and so that's exactly right. And I think that especially when it gets back to family, and those are the people that we have danced with, it's not like it's a stranger, where a stranger is telling you what to do. So when we go back into that setting, especially with our family or our very close friends, I think that it also takes us back to what we were more used to. And maybe when you talk about your default, about going back to using. And again, in time, it's going to be, because remember, in time, it's not just going to be about us, but it's also going to be about the way that we view the world. Not just, so right now we're learning boundaries, like we're learning to set proper boundaries. We're learning that if somebody says to you, you know what, you're not doing this right, for you to be able to look at that and say, yeah, you know, I'm doing it right for myself, and not letting that upset you. But then in time also just to understand how everybody else in the universe is, and to be able to say, hey, you know what, I can look at this person and actually feel for this person and say, gee, you know what, I hope right now I don't have to be right in front of this person. I can be quiet. And I could let this person, let's say they're ranting or doing whatever, and I could look at this person and feel for them and say, gee, you know what, I hope one day they get better, they feel better, so that their lives can be happier.
So we were talking about, I just got back from a family trip, by the way. Hi. So I'm surrounded by people in full-blown addiction. So there's certain things that our family life revolves around food. So if it isn't about this meal, it's about the next meal. I travel with food. I take food up with me. I bring food down with me. Food travels across different states, okay? But it's a family. No. Yeah, it's a.
You can't get arrested for that, I don't think.
The what's it? The trans, the TA. What is it called? The TSA. The TSA. I get little notes from them. Love notes every single time I travel. I get patted down every time I go through an airport. So the thing is, food is very much part of our world, and not only is it part of our world, it's a generational thing. So it's been my grandparents, it's been my parents. And I'm surrounded by people in full-blown addiction mode where they believe my father's world revolves around bread. His big thing is bread, and for him, his world will never be the same if he has to give up certain foods. And for him, it's so hard and it's so difficult that his life and his health is not that great, that there's certain foods that he's not allowed to eat and it's the end of the world, but he doesn't want to deal with them. So for me, me choosing to make certain choices of, and I was explaining this to them, when I pick up certain things, I have a chemical reaction in me that it creates a certain craving and a certain need that I have to feed, okay? It creates these certain feelings. Plus I also get this twist on my mind.
We call that addiction, by the way.
Right, and which is a total obsession. So I become obsessive. So that twist of the mind is if I go and I have one bite of this or I have some of that. So for me, I've got some absolutes. I had to have a line in the sand that goes, these are my absolutes. And it doesn't matter, it's got nothing to do with you. This is about me. I don't like the way that I feel 4 or 5 days later after touching certain of my trigger foods and putting them in my body, because I have almost like an allergic reaction to them, that I turn around and I know the food comas and I know those cravings and those sprees because I live them, and I've lived them so many times that I have certain boundaries that I just go, so what? It doesn't matter. It's not that important to me, and I choose not to touch that at the moment. You know, for me, for them, it's a different world. So they go back to their old behaviors, and for me, it becomes, why aren't you doing this? You aren't eating enough. You're looking too thin. You've got to start eating more. It becomes a whole thing that I know is more about them than about me.
Right, so it has nothing to do with you.
Got absolutely nothing to do with
Right, and we need to remember that the way that I act has nothing to do with you, and the way that you act has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
So the thing is, are we going to react to the way that other people are acting.
Well, how codependent
So-
are we?
Well, and yeah, and what trigger is that when somebody, because you talk about being around family and then thinking about that trigger. So what we need to look at first is, if I'm your sister and you walk in the door and I say, oh my God, you're looking so thin, don't you eat? How you feel about that? What kind of feelings do you have about that? So immediately, what kind of feelings would you have about that? Immediately, before you work it through your head, what kind of feelings do you have about that?
Well, my first is to get defensive. No, I'm not. You got to remember something. I'm fat on the
course.
inside, so I've gained and lost weight so many times that I really am fat on the inside. Just grab some chairs, lady. Hi. So there is that certain reaction of no, you're wrong, and I'm right, and that need to be right all the time, and that defensiveness that goes, you're wrong, I'm going to prove you're wrong. Okay.
Why is that?
Because I feel like I need to be right.
Also, when I'm telling you that you're doing something wrong, I'm still also telling you that you're not good enough. And that's stuff that plays back to our parts in our family anyway. So otherwise, why do you have to prove yourself right? Why do you have that feeling that you have to be right?
So I'm strong and I know what I'm talking about, and people don't see me as being weak, or so for me there's a certain role that I've always assumed.
Right.
So I think there's a certain family dynamic that when I walk into the family I have to be a certain person because I've always been that person.
Well, okay, so that's what you're used to.
Right, and that's what they used to, and all of a sudden I'm not that person anymore.
Right. Right.
So-
Because in recovery, we're not that person anymore.
Right, so then becomes a question of how are you dealing with other people. So when other people are expecting you to behave in a certain way, and you show up the way that you're showing up, they still reacting the way that they've always reacted.
Right, which is their business.
100%, and it's easier when it's strangers and it's people at work than when it's people that you've known your whole lives, and they're your family and your parents and your siblings and people that have always had a certain amount of influence in a certain way, and also given me the reason to justify why it's okay for me to use and abuse food in certain instances, because we all did as a family. So now that dynamic's changing.
Okay, and so the
They get
dynamic is
defensive.
changing. Pardon?
They get defensive also within that, so I'm dealing with a certain amount of resentment coming from their part because I'm not doing certain things.
And are you responsible for their resentment?
No, absolutely
No, you're
not. Whereas
absolutely
before
not.
I would.
Okay.
Before
Well,
I'd go, why can't I be, before I beat myself up, why am I making them feel bad? Why am I making them do this? It's my responsibility. I should be the one bringing peace in the home. My parents are elderly. They're not well. Why make them
so
feel
anyway,
bad?
this is
These are all the stories.
Right. And every story that we tell like this is always going to end up, the end result is going to be, I show up, I do my best to do my best, and the rest of the universe is the way that it is. That's acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges today. So yes, people push your buttons and it's immediately what you're used to. And you do go back to that default and you feel like the person that you were when you were in active addiction, and it triggers whatever and you want to use. That's kind of like a normal pattern. And so before you put yourself back into a situation like that, where somebody even will go out of their way to say, no, here, you have to taste the bread, taste it, it's so great, you wouldn't believe it, like Aunt Sally made it, she made it especially for you, and you came over and you really have to have a piece of the bread. I can't believe she's not gonna have a piece of the bread. I don't know what's going on, I don't know. What's wrong with her? Do you know what's wrong with her? Look how skinny she is. And you not fearing to be able to remember that they still are the way that they are, even though you're changing. And that even though they're the people that you love, their opinion of you has nothing to do with it.
That was my lesson. I mean, honestly, the biggest lesson for me was shutting my mouth this time, which is very unusual for me because normally my first thing is needing to be right and stand up and be right all the time. So if you like, there's a whole room full of people.
There's a whole room full of people.
So what happens when people start pushing your buttons? I mean, what is your default way of going, especially people that you're close to?
Where's our button?
Well, your buttons. There's certain people that you'll have a certain reaction to, that you've always reacted in the same way. What do you do?
Good question.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah,
we're
nor do you have to answer.
Yeah, nor do you
So-
have to answer. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is, we're not grading anything. We're just having a conversation. So,
Well, I guess my mother passed away, but my mom used to be really good at pushing my buttons.
Mhm.
And you were just talking about my mom always had to be right. And I always felt like I had to be right. So at some point growing up, I decided it was more important for her to be right and for me to not battle it because it wasn't worth the battle.
Yeah, and so it really isn't worth a battle. That's
so I let
true.
her be right for many years. It was just easier. Yes, you're right. She probably knew I was. Yes, Mom, you're
You're
right.
being
you're
passively
right.
aggressive, but that's okay.
But it worked.
No, of course.
She needed
of
to
course.
win.
I agree with that. I agree
So
with
I
that.
let her be right. I think that I became what she wanted me to become because it was easier to do that than to stand my ground.
Right. And I'm not sure how deep that goes with you, but
Pretty
you know,
deep.
I'm gonna get back to just for a second. You know, when we feel like we had talked the other day about ego, and so ego is what I think your opinion of me is. And so when I feel like I have to act a certain way so that you think I'm awesome, not so that I think I'm awesome, not so that I'm doing my best, but so you think I'm awesome, that's because your opinion of me matters more than my own opinion of me. Right? And so we're going to talk about that would be us talking about codependency. And so I don't know how I am or who I am or how I feel, and I'm depending on you to tell me how I feel. So if you're happy with me, then I can feel good about myself. If you're arguing with me, then that's really because, well, you know, I have to prove myself right and get you back in that place where you're liking me again or you're agreeing with me again. It's really tiresome. It's tiresome, right?
She's just like you. She's the same as you. What you just described is Suzanne.
Thanks.
Maybe I.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So, okay, so maybe we should talk about that after. I don't know what just happened.
You just
I have no
described her.
idea.
I'm sorry, but you did.
Okay,
Well, maybe I should tell her that.
okay. And so most importantly, when we get ourselves back into this situation, I think one of the most important things that you said was the family dynamic is the family dynamic. When I'm in active addiction, everybody else around me has their certain part in the play. And then when I'm not in active addiction anymore, everybody else still thinks that they have a certain part in that play. And so they're still playing their roles, except I'm completely different. And knowing that there's nothing that I can do to change how they are, that I could just do the best that I can do, which is what you were doing, right?
Right.
You didn't feel that feeling where you just had to be right all the time,
right.
right? And then at some point understanding that they're just other sick and suffering people and that we wish them the best. If I can look at you when you're mad at me, if I can look at you as somebody who's having a challenge today and I can feel for you, I'm happier. If I look at you and I get pissed off at you because you're pissed off at me, it causes chaos in my life. And those things we talk about, you talk about all the time, that we create chaos and then we fall back on that pattern, and that's when we use.
So I was channeling you, just so you know. So it came up that
I don't know if I'm gonna like it.
no, you will. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll like this one because just so within the family, they lost a good friend,
Mhm.
and the wife. And there was a whole discussion on what is the right thing to do. Like, what do you do when someone loses someone? Like, how do you go and treat them? And we're having this conversation, and the conversation is you do the right thing. You treat them like the friend that you want to be treated, because at the end of the day, that's the right thing to do. And if someone doesn't want to answer the phone, they want to answer the phone, or they might just pick it up and say, thank you for really thinking about me. I feel, thank you. You know, just, so doing the next right thing is really something that I had in my head the whole time that I was away. So I could have got into that same dynamic of arguing and fighting, and then it became the whole family dynamic of, you're right, dog, you got to understand something. We Jewish South Africans, so unless you're shouting, it's not a conversation. It's kind of like a Greek family. The louder you talk, the more you're
family,
Italian
yeah.
family. You've got to talk loudly to be heard. Not only do you talk loudly, you talk with your hands, or it kind of becomes very emotional, and then it becomes the ego stepping in. But so there was a point of letting go, and the interesting part for me in this, because this isn't my first time back there, but it's the first time that I didn't start obsessing.
Mhm.
Because normally I'll treat my abstinence as a reason to obsess about something, like a diet plan, and I can't have this, and I can't have that, and it's a total battle of the wills. And this time it wasn't. This was a choice that I was making for my own health. And no matter what they were thinking, or you were thinking, it didn't matter, because I was just happy being there and spending time with them and getting to enjoy the moment with my elderly parents, and whatever crap they're dealing with, they're going to deal with anyway. But I was there for this amount of time, and it was awesome. It was absolutely a totally different experience. But it was very interesting walking in, and everyone's got an opinion of what I should be doing. Everyone had an opinion of how I should be leading my life, or what I should be eating, or what I should be doing, or how I should be reacting. And I'm watching all of this with a totally different eye.
And probably watching it differently too, and understanding, because we need to understand too that where we came from, that those were the people that we were.
And that's a difficulty, because when you watch people in active addiction, it's very difficult turning around. No one, and food addiction is a strange thing, because people go foods everywhere. It's not, food is an addiction if you're obsessing about it, if you're trying to control it, and it's something that you're battling to control, that you are serial dieting, that you're going up, that you're going down, that it becomes something that you spend so much of your time thinking about.
And if it's something you're ashamed about.
And it's something that's making you happy.
Whenever we're in any kind of active addiction, guilt and shame are always attached to it. When we ain't doing something that we think is wrong, when we ain't doing something that we're fighting against ourselves doing, we don't have that guilt and shame.
Right. And also the other side of it is that mental twist, that obsession of the actual food substances, that I have to eat this now because it talks to me and it calls my name and I have to have it, and it becomes a total obsession in terms of that substance. But when other people are going through that, you can't bring anyone else into recovery unless they're ready to deal with it.
Of course.
So being around people in active addiction, there are two choices. Either I can start using and abusing, that's my choice, or I can just do what I'm doing, okay, and whatever you're going to do irrespective. You want my help, you want me to step in, you want something from me, ask me and I'm there for you, but I can't change where you are, and I can't influence what's happening with you either. And
none of us can, no matter how hard we try. The thing is, it's always gonna, the lesson is always gonna go back to, I show up, I do my best to do my best, and how the rest of the universe turns is the way that the rest of the universe turns. So that's all I have to do is my best.
And that's in
That's
total
it.
opposite to what I was brought up with. When I was brought up, I control everything.
Yeah.
The harder I work, the better that I do, the more things will show up, the better and the more successful
And how'd that
I'll
work
be.
out for you?
Really fucked up. I mean, there's not. I mean,
That
honestly,
didn't work out real well
it
for
didn't
us.
work out very
Didn't work
well.
out.
I mean, I worked out that I was miserable, I was guilty, and I was ashamed. I mean, really.
And we were never good enough.
And
And that's why we're always miserable and guilty, because we were never good enough. And then while we were using, not only were we not good enough, but now we're not good enough, disgusting, shamed, horrible, you know, like we get all that, like we're the worst people in the world because we're addicts, like so many other people are, but we know it. We're in active addiction, and then we're still trying to control everything, and then our life is just a mess.
Well, mine's a little more complicated than that. Because I look for another
She's
addiction.
more special.
I'm more special. I know my addiction's a little worse than yours. But so I started looking for other things to swap out. So if I can't have the food that goes through, I'll take the cigarettes, or I was smoking the pot, or it was, I'm now petrified of alcohol, because that for me is like the next step that I just don't want, because I am an addict. I'm an addict. It takes different faces. I just don't like dealing with myself.
Exactly. And you'll see very, very often when people who are in the midst of a food addiction, decide that they're going to not be in recovery but control their food, you see lots and lots of us guys become alcoholics. You also see a whole bunch of alcoholics who can control their drinking, not really be in recovery, but control their drinking, and so they become obese. So addiction's addiction. It don't matter what your drug choice is, it's still addiction. Unless you have recovery, you're an addict, you know?
And abstinence isn't recovery. There
No,
has to be
abstinence
that
got nothing
spiritual
to do with it,
component.
yeah.
Without that spiritual component, there's not recovery. That's just another diet, or it's another form of abstaining till you fall,
Right,
until you relapse.
right.
So you clean for a little bit, then you relapse, and the diet works. You lose that 80 pounds. 3 months later, you've fallen
Gain
off the
back.
wagon. You gain it back. Plus, you feel worse than when you started. You know, I was brilliant at gym. I could go. The day I missed one day, that was it. Off the wagon, done. Seriously. So it becomes a question of doing it because it's good for me. It's doing it because I can't listen to my head that often, because I've lied to myself so many times and I've told myself so many stories, and I'm a brilliant storyteller. You know, one bite of this doesn't hurt, one taste of that doesn't matter. Monday's the magic day. You know, all these different stories are fantastic stories, but
They're
They
lies.
don't.
They're all lies. So every time we pick up on a lie.
But you're
And
saying,
those are the lies that we tell
I'm
ourselves.
done because of many reasons. One is I had medical assistance, so I had bariatric surgery.
oh,
So over my lifetime, I probably gained and lost 600 pounds.
wow.
But the surgery for me, and this is the interesting thing, is it comes up, is people say, is recovery having surgery? No, surgery for me was my rehab. It was my absolute lowest point. I was suicidal. I was depressed. I couldn't move. My body was killing me. I was pre-diabetic. It was my only way of really putting myself into, it was my last resort. The work I've done since then is up to me. The choices I make every single day of what I put into my mouth are things that I make. Those are the choices I make. So recovery for me is wanting to be healthy and happy, which is totally different than losing weight and being thin, because
no,
I'm
some
fat on the
people-
inside.
I know some people that had the surgery and they gained it back
Of
after.
course
No,
they
not
do.
if
Of
you
course
want
they
to.
do. Because if we don't change, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right.
So if I don't change the reasons that I'm using, if I don't have some type of spiritual recovery, if I don't learn how to live happy, if I don't learn how to be positive, if I don't learn how to be grateful, if I don't learn to change my perspective, if I don't learn that I am only in control of my own thoughts and my own actions, if I don't learn those things, then I'm just somebody who lost a whole bunch of weight, and I will gain all of that weight back.
If you look
Yes.
at my, sorry.
Yes.
But how do you learn that? Because it's making it seem both of my sister-in-laws had the surgery, and I'm really against the surgery, and now my doctors want me to have the surgery because of so many illnesses that I have. But I think it'll just destroy me, because I know my problem is mental.
Of course it
So
is.
it'll destroy my
Everybody's
ego and
is.
mental. But
Mhm.
the way I see it, like seeing you, is as if the surgery, like you said, to your recovery, because of the surgery, you learn to be happy. You learn,
No, no, you completely missed
No,
that.
not at all.
Completely missed the point.
No.
So say that again
Okay,
slowly.
so I'm going to say this slowly. I wanted the quick fix. I thought the surgery would fix everything. I was a self-pay patient. I went in, I paid for a surgery, I thought it would solve the whole issue. 2 weeks after the surgery, I went, oh shit, what the hell have I done?
Exactly.
Okay, because my life will never ever be the same again, and I'm not dealing with the issue. And all of a sudden, I couldn't go back to the things that I always used as my crutch, which was my food. All of a sudden, I had to start dealing with the real demons and really looking at me and dealing with me. The surgery isn't going to fix it. It's a short-term solution. It was an absolute lifesaver for me where I was at that stage,
But it has nothing
but it
to
has
do with
nothing
recovery.
to do with the recovery.
Nothing to do with
So
recovery.
how do you get that recovery or that?
That's what we do here.
Right, that's what we do. That's what Why Wait for Recovery is for.
This is learning to touch back on the things that make us happy, to live, be happy, healthy, and live with joy. Because that's really what it is.
Because that's what I tell them, and they don't understand.
But-
They don't
but-
understand me.
so
They're
here's
like,
the
"Oh,
thing."
we force not to eat. But if I eat this
But
much
but
of the
but
wrong
here's
food,
the
because I'm
thing.
not fixed
You
here.
you can't tell anybody else how to do it. Nothing that you say changes my mind. The only thing that you could do for yourself, show up, do your best, and the rest of the world turns the way that it does. That's one of the most important things that we're going to learn in recovery is acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges.
That's true.
And the other side of this, because we're dealing with food, which is really cunning and it changes, and our relationship with food and food itself changes continually, we need to have food plans and we need to put in work and we need to do things, because there's no such thing as a magic pill and a magic solution that all of a sudden, if I wish to be thin enough, long enough, and put enough effort into wishing it and believing it, that it's going to happen without doing any work, that doesn't happen.
Right, and so that's
Yeah.
just part of the doing your food plan, what you have to do. If you want to be able to stay on some regimen, which is going to help you as you're going through your recovery. So, I don't use. That doesn't mean I'm in recovery. When I'm in recovery, I don't need to use. So it has to start with the recovery. When we had this conversation the other day when you were crying, and I said, so you lost 120 pounds. Has it made you happy on the inside?
Right.
No. Losing weight doesn't make us happy. Getting happy is cool, and we'll lose the weight because we're not picking up the way that we were picking up because we're not in active addiction. Addiction is a spiritual ailment. Addiction doesn't have anything to do with eating. It doesn't have anything to do with snorting coke. It doesn't have anything to do with drinking or smoking pot or starving yourself. That's the end result of an addiction. Addiction is being spiritually broken.
And part of that is not feeling good enough, not feeling heard enough, being scared of things, dealing with anxiety, not dealing with our emotions, not being able to feel that we're worthy enough to express it, that people really care enough about us, or that we're going to be weak or we need to be strong. So these are all things that we carry within us, that all of a sudden when we start looking at those things and dealing with that and all those secrets that we've kept inside of us. I was fat because of the secrets I kept inside. I was so unhappy that my outside manifested what I was feeling on the inside. I was stuffing my emotions so deeply, and that's what I was carrying on the outside. And the minute I start dealing with that, I'm able to do things that I couldn't do for a really long time. Really laugh and sing and dance and enjoy going for a drive with the roof down. Like things that were so simple that I never saw before because I was so stuck in my own head.
Right, and when we're spiritually broken, we ain't happy. We're not grateful. We're not giving back to the world. We're selfish, we're self-centered, we're thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about when we're abused, we're thinking about and this, and if I do this, and then you're going to do this, and you're going to feel like that, and then if I just go back and if I say this to my boss, and why did you talk to me like that anyway? And if I say this to my boss, and I say this to my husband, and if I dress this way, and I look this way, and I do this way, and blah, 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 addiction.
Right.
That's what addiction is. Recovery is feeling spiritually just so much better. Relaxed, calm, understanding what my place is, knowing what I'm not responsible for and what I am responsible for. That's recovery. The other shit is chaos and addiction. Simple. It's really kind of simple.
It really
Right?
is kind of simple.
We
And
were
without the chaos-
insane, crazy. I was a crazy person when I was in active addiction. The only thing I thought about was using. Where am I going to get it? How am I going to do it? How am I going to hide it from you? What am I going to do if I wake up in the morning and then I go to bed at night and then in between and then I have to do this and do this and do this and I have to plan this around this? Blah, 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 addiction.
And so much thought goes into that process.
Oh my God, so much. That's all I
And
really
so-
think
yeah.
about. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to share that. I love that saying, when you say just do your best to do your best. So, like yesterday, I had a son. I know you won't let me talk in the negative for too long, but I had a terrible. My boss is not dealing with a full day.
Okay.
She's just not. Okay.
Okay.
She's not a normal person.
Okay, end of that. And
And so she was mad.
okay,
It
she
could
was
be-
mad, and you felt, because I don't give a shit what she did. You felt,
I felt so stupid that I wanted to literally.
okay, so let's stop there. I'm acting like a maniac, and so you think you're stupid. Let's think about that. I'm a maniac. Why would you think you were stupid? Because I'm acting like a maniac. I'm a maniac. We got to start looking at things differently, you guys. Right? So, okay, I'm a maniac. If you could look look at me in recovery, you will learn to look at me when I'm ranting and raving and acting crazy. First of all, you learn how to set boundaries. That's first of all. Second of all, you'll be able to look at me and say, oh my God, Felice is really like off her rocker today. I really feel bad for her. I hope she feels better tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm gonna go take a walk because the way that I'm being treated right now, it ain't good for me. And so this is a boundary that I'm setting for myself. Not, oh my God, and I feel good, and now I feel dead, and it's not good, and I'm not good enough, and I'm trying, and I don't know why she doesn't like me, and and I'm doing my best, and it's so hard, and we don't need to go through all that shit.
And then you pick up the bat and you start beating yourself up.
Right.
My boss is crazy. I'm gonna use.
Right,
I'm gonna abuse.
and then you
Yeah.
use, and then after you use, then you want to kill yourself.
No, it was before, but then I used, I
Because
was
your
a month
boss-
clean from
Okay.
the pot.
Okay.
Because your
And
boss
then-
was acting crazy.
So no, but excuse me,
Right.
that was your excuse. I'm sorry.
I-
That was your excuse. I'm not sorry. That was your excuse to use.
I'm awesome, man.
So, yeah, I am awesome. And that's what your brain, your addicted brain, that's your addiction talking. Your addiction said, hey, everything's crazy, poor pitiful me, she's a maniac, which means I'm not good enough. I feel so bad, and if I just smoke a joint, then I'm going to feel better because it's so hard over
And
here.
you know her so well.
Listen,
Addict.
and I want to ask you a question because I see the look on your face, and so we're all going to be honest with here. When she speaks like that to you in front of us, how does that make you feel? Do you feel respected right now? You guys are friends? Do you feel respected when she's sarcastic with you?
No.
No, you don't. And so it makes you feel bad, right? Right.
Not
And so
at this
even though,
moment, but-
okay, and even though the sarcasm is coming from you and that's about her, until you feel stronger in your recovery, then you might feel bad. And if you do, then we turn around to that person and say, hey, you know what? I love you and I know that you love me too. And when you talk like that, it makes me really feel kind of sad and unloved. So I'm going to set a boundary with us and I'm going to ask you to speak to me nicely. How easy was that? That's recovery. You're allowed to have boundaries in recovery. You're allowed to say, I'm a good person doing my best. And
Well, my
so,
boss is saying, looking in my eye and calling me a fucking idiot.
I don't give a
What
shit.
do I
I
how
don't
do
give
I
a shit.
not take
What you
that
do,
in,
what
though?
you do is you look for another job. So here's the thing. There are challenges and there are solutions. There are challenges and there are solutions. I got two choices. I can walk or I can smile all the way to the bank when I cash my paycheck. Those are my choices. I cannot react to somebody else's crazy and say, gee, this is a great job because I have this great paycheck and it allows me to do whatever. Or I could say, there's no way for me to survive here. And so I'm going to, right now, actively start looking for another job.
Oh, so it's accepting, in other words, because she's good to me and I feel that I
It's
need
your
to
choice.
be
You can either be accepting of the person that she is.
Right.
You could say, okay, she's a maniac, don't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
She's inappropriate, doesn't have anything to do with me. And when somebody's screaming at me, I have the right to say, I understand and walk away. I understand and take a walk. And take a walk.
And part of that is when we value our health more than anything else, then we're able to turn around and say, she's going to do whatever she's going to do. She's going to be a maniac and act like a maniac. Doesn't mean to say I need to go and abuse myself.
Right, it doesn't have
mean
anything
to say I
to
have
do
to
with
hurt
you.
myself because she is crazy at the moment.
And we don't need to have our addiction, because remember, that's always your addiction talking. Whenever something's happening that's giving me good enough reason to use, that's my addiction talking. That's certainly not my recovery talking. Right? Recovery completely screws up your addiction. Right? Totally gets in the way of using, right? When you're in recovery. So, yeah. So, whenever you fall back on that, oh, and poor me, and I'm abused, and I'm this, and we're not victims. Either fucking leave your job, go find another job, or say, okay, I'm working for the maniac. She's great to me in some ways. When she's acting like a maniac, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and say I gotta pee. Or I'm gonna say, hey, I hear you, thanks for sharing. And that's it. And not play in that arena. And then be happy when you get your paycheck. Those are your choices. To sit and feel sorry for yourself and use, that's your addiction.
Because I felt so strong of being a month, well, I've been, cleaning. I called her last night, I was so hysterical crying that I'm she's not making me feel that way. I'm feeling like they say nobody makes you feel anything.
Right,
I'm feeling
nobody
so
makes
she,
you
so
feel
I
like
was
that.
so I called her up and I said, you know, I do everything for your children. Your children are
Nobody, listen, it doesn't matter. No matter what you say,
Yeah.
you're not going to change who I am.
Right.
No matter what you say, you can change who you are, but you can't change who I am. I am
Right.
responsible for doing my best. I am not responsible for trying to control you into doing what I want you to do. It don't work. That's hitting your head up against the wall. It's never going to work. You show up and do your best.
Said she was apologizing.
Who cares?
And
but so you're like gonna play the battered wife thing? Who cares? It
Right.
doesn't matter. She is the way that she is.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with you.
Oh,
so the
no.
rest of the conversation doesn't matter.
Okay,
What
I get
matters
it
is
now.
your attachment, your feelings, how you feel when she disrespects you, and if you feel horrible and sad and less than, and no matter what I do, it's not good enough. That's about you. That ain't about her.
So when I'm in active addiction, I need as much chaos in my world as possible.
Thank you for bringing that
I
up.
really need as many people to be angry at or upset about, because then I can justify why I can not only go through the drive-through, why I can pick up cigarettes, why I can smoke a joint, why I can use all those things that I want to use, because really I want to. Trust me, I want to
Because
many times.
oh,
'Cause
poor
poor
Haiti.
me.
So many
So
things
I will
are
go
happening.
through the different drive-throughs, I will hide the papers, I will come up with stories, I will go to different Publixes, I will come up with all different reasons, all because by feeling bad about myself or letting or taking it on, that I'm justified in these behaviors because of what you said and what you did and what you mentioned and all these other
It's
things.
all your fault.
Because it's all
So
your
I
fault.
didn't
So
smoke
do you know what
pot because of
happens?
her. I
No,
did it
you
because
smoke
I
not because you're in
wanted-
active addiction. Exactly.
So then own it, because otherwise,
own it.
otherwise
Okay,
we're
screw it
giving.
up. I got high. I'm gonna do better today.
How could it
It's
happen?
all right. It happens.
It happens. There's
Right.
It wasn't
nothing we
because
haven't
of
done.
her. I wanted to. That was
Exactly.
the excuse that,
Exactly.
you know, right.
So that's why we say it's your addiction talk.
So all of a sudden you get the power back, because then you have choices, and with choices comes power, because by making other people responsible for how we feel and what we do gives them the power over our lives to dictate how we're going to land up and how we're going to feel. And when we do that, we feel like shit. We feel like shit continually. We feel guilty, ashamed, and we feel terrible.
And when we don't do that, we have serenity. Right? And we know
Because-
peace.
And we can be compassionate.
Right.
And we can go, do you know what, you're having a really tough day? Go take a break. I'll take something. I'll take care of the stuff. You go for a walk.
Right.
I'll take care of the office.
Right. So if you see somebody for who they are, then you can relate to them. As soon as you decide that what you do or what you say is going to change them, you're fighting up against the wave, and it's going to knock you down every single time. And as soon as you put your hands up to fight against that wave, that's your active addiction. Then you're going to use. Right? We said the other day, pour me a drink. And it don't matter what's at the end of that sentence for you. You know, pour me the milkshake. Doesn't matter. Pour me some mashed potatoes. It doesn't matter. It's still, you know, oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. I'm a victim. I hate that word. I'm a victim. Poor me. I'm a victim. Look at what life is doing to me, and look at what's happening to me. Look at what's happening.
You know how many times in the last 3 days I heard it's so hard?
What's so hard?
The only thing I want hard is one thing. That's the only thing.
That's a different meaning.
That's
It's
a
a
totally
different
different meaning altogether. But when I hear it's so hard, puts you directly in that course of being the victim.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. When I look at the world as something harsh and chaotic, it makes me a victim. When I look at the world and say, wow, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and I'm going to start paying attention to what's really great out there, and I'm going to feel, of course, better, because we always feel better like that. So right now, while you're in active addiction, we look at the things in our life that make us, I can't do this, and I couldn't do this, and if I would only do this, and you know, and if she would do this, and you know, my daughter said this, and my son, and you know, and then I got that phone call, and you know, and then I was talking to you, and when we're having all of those things happen, instead of just saying, hey, I had a good day, I showed up and I did the best that I could, And right now, you know, we did that the other day, right? Where I walked in, I'm like, I'm so pissed off. I was pissed off. Reach your hand out to somebody else. Get out of your own head. Look at Angie and say, Angeli, is there anything that I could do for you today? You know, or I need for you to hear my favorite song because it's such a great song. Reach your hand out to somebody else.
So what are you
Get out of
grateful
your own
for?
head.
What is one
Did you do
thing-
your gratitude list last night?
What is
Well, I wrote down I'm not grateful.
so? What are you grateful for right now? One thing.
That I was able to get up and sign up for my exercise classes this morning.
Perfect.
Awesome. What are
And-
you grateful for?
My new roommate.
Awesome.
Awesome. What are you grateful for?
A lot of things.
One thing.
One
Being
thing.
able to get here, I got so lost.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, so journey proved to be okay.
There's a lot. I
I
think
love
I'm
that.
most
I love
grateful to be happy on a regular basis.
That's beautiful.
I'm so grateful I followed my luggage.
She followed her
I
luggage
was
onto the
wait a
plane.
sec, I just got to tell you because I'm just really stoked about this. My luggage got onto an earlier flight than I did, and they let me join it. So I actually
That was
got
pretty groovy.
which is pretty cool. So I got to a little bit earlier today, so I'm really totally stoked.
You flew here?
Yes, from New
You're
York.
from New York today.
Away.
And I'm grateful that you got home on time because when we do the meeting together, it makes me kind of giddy and giggly, and I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful for the experience. I'm super grateful that you guys show up because every time you show up, no matter why you do, you're taking that first step to care about yourself. Whether you're ready to do it today or not, you still decided, you made a conscious decision to do something that's going to be better for you.
So coming back to the question, so what is recovery for me? Okay. So
Were we
recovery
talking
for
about
me-
something?
Yes. So for me, but this was a discussion with us. Recovery for me has been a gift. It's really been a blessing because it's taken my eyes, instead of turning inwards, they turned outwards, and I see a world now, whereas before it was all about me. And it was about how difficult my world was and what everyone was doing, and it was me trying to control my world. And now it's me just enjoying the world that I'm in and being grateful for being here to be able to enjoy it every single day because it is a blessing. Some people don't get to do this. Some people don't get up in the morning with 2 legs and 2 arms and 2 eyes and 2 ears and are able to actually just get up and move. So we are truly blessed. But when we are stuck in our stuff and our addiction as a miserable, dark rabbit hole that seems like you can never ever get out of it, and recovery is the light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. And so in our active addiction or in our discontentness, is that a word?
It is now.
All of that stuff is based on fear. And so we always talk about that fear is worrying about losing what I already have or that I'm not going to get what it is that I want. And so all of the emotions, all of the negative emotions that we have are fear-based. And so we say faith and fear can't live, hand in hand. And faith just says, you know what? Again, I'm going to show up and do the best that I can, and the world is going to turn the way that it does. Whether I'm afraid or not, if I go through the day today where I'm worried about my daughter, I'm worried about my daughter, I'm worried about my daughter, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm worried about my daughter, I'm worried about my daughter, and my daughter, and this might happen, and this might happen, and this, how old is your daughter?
I have 2, 8 and 13.
Okay.
They're
Okay, they're
still-
still
they're
little,
still
so that's different, because actually that's a different type of relationship.
Yeah.
So let's say we're worried about our boss. So I went home last night after work, and now I'm worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm worried, and you know what, maybe she's going to come in and she's going to scream at me, and I don't even know, and maybe I should go in late, but maybe I should go in super early and get some stuff done so that she's not mad, and maybe, right, all of that stuff is fear-based, right? And at 8 o'clock when you woke up in the morning, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. Whether you went through the night worrying about it or not, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. If you went home last night, called a friend in recovery and said, hey, I'm having a really hard time right now, this is how I feel, not this is what happened. This event happened. My boss is an asshole. This is how I feel. Can we talk about some kind of solution? And took that route and went to bed with gratitude and woke up this morning at 8 o'clock this morning. It was 8 o'clock this morning. So at 8 o'clock, it's going to be 8 o'clock. Whether we walk through the night in fear or whether we walk through the night in faith. At 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. Didn't change nothing. except for how you felt. Right?
So being in recovery and staying in recovery means doing the work, which means showing up. Starts with showing up. The next step is opening up the doors of gratitude, because the minute we do that, it changes our whole perception. We have a gratitude list that's either on Facebook or you
Simple
can text
thing
it
to
to us.
do.
It's a really simple thing, doesn't cost a thing, and changes your whole world. I guarantee you do it for 90 days, your whole world will start shifting. You do gratitude every single day for 90 days, your world will change.
And I'm going to tell you too that we talk about recovery very simply. We talk about it like it's the easiest thing on the planet. It's a lot. Haiti, Angeli, they're both my sponsees, and they're going to tell you that they've done a lot of hard work.
I've hated her. at times.
Hated me. This
Hated-
one wanted to
I-
punch me, like out at Starbucks. I thought she was going to pick something up and just like punch me in the face.
I love
swear
her.
to God.
But
They both
honestly,
love me.
I have cried more with Felice than I have with anyone else. But it's the most cathartic thing. We really deal with things that, it's a space where you talk about how you feel. And we don't get those opportunities very often. In fact, we run away from how we're feeling so much that all of a sudden we're in a room where everyone's in the same place. It's quite amazing. There's no one here who hasn't done or felt or done things or experienced things that we all have. It's at a certain stage.
Yeah, our horror and our experiences and all the horrible stuff that we never want to tell anybody doesn't make us any different from any other addict. What will define us is how we feel in our recovery. With Why Wait for Recovery, the reason why we have Why Wait for Recovery is because we're building a community. We'll be teaching classes. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff to reach out to the recovery community so that we can grow spiritually together and heal together as a community.
And
One addict helping another.
And in other words, last night I had a choice. When I was driving home, instead of crying hysterically, telling my kids I want to die, and they were freaking out, instead of that, I called her hysterical. I had a choice because a grateful list of ours came in, and I was like, I'm not grateful. I just wanted, because my son's girlfriend said I have a little unique, and I told your sons I'm going to give
And
it.
by the way, what's your boundary with these people? Like, do me a favor, don't bring pot in my fucking house or get out on the street.
No, they go
like, that's the-
outside and do it.
Doesn't
but
matter.
it's-
Why is it in your house? Why is it in
I'm
your
s-
house? Why is it in your house? I'm gonna stop yelling at you. Why is it in your house? I get really
Well,
passionate.
they go outside now. but
Listen to
it's
me.
still-
Is that okay with you? Because I'm gonna tell you that in my house, it wouldn't be okay if anybody had alcohol.
at all?
It wouldn't. Oh. And if people love me and respect me,
It's a
they're gonna
respect thing.
understand that they don't need to have alcohol around me. I'm an alcoholic.
My
Right?
son knows I love pot. Okay, I love marijuana. It's like my favorite. That is my drug of choice. Next to food, I love pot. Okay, I smoke more pot through college. I can pick it up if somebody is smoking it 3 miles away. Okay, I can tell you what grade it is and where it came from.
So she loves
But-
pot before it gets to the end result.
Right.
Let's make sure
Okay.
that we say that part.
Right, I
Okay.
love.
We
pot.
love the thought of it because we think it makes us whatever. But
Right.
Right.
in the end,
okay.
right.
But the thing is, I know I've got a problem with pot, okay, because I can't stop once I start smoking. For me, it becomes my next obsession. So my son, my kids know I don't want it in the house because I will smell it on your breath. I will find it somewhere,
Why make it?
and it triggers me. It is a trigger
It's
that all I
hard
do is
enough.
right, and I'm
Then
so
why are you
obsessed about
allowing
it.
it?
Don't allow it.
Well,
It's a
now
respect
in the
thing.
way they're leaving tomorrow.
Okay. What's a
Maybe it-
respect thing?
But if they come back, you're right. It's not.
Because
It's
you don't have to
trigger.
get angry about it.
Yeah.
You don't have. There's nothing to get angry about. This is who I am. This is my home. I respect my home. I expect you to respect my home as well. In my house, we don't have pot.
And
if
you-
you need to have pot on you, I'm going to ask you to stay at a hotel, and you can come over and see me when you're not hot. It's all the boundary. It's respecting yourself.
Because every night when I come home from work and I know that she's, of course I know, are you kidding? Smoking for how many years? And it's like, she's like giggling and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah,
I
but you
go
do
to
it to
my-
you. But that you're doing to yourself. That you're doing to yourself.
Because if I didn't allow it, I wouldn't know that
Exactly.
she was, and I'd go to my room
Exactly.
and medit, do my thing.
Exactly.
The beauty about recovery, and one of the things I've learned, is no is a full sentence. It took me a long
Taught
time
her
to
that. I can't imagine who
It
says
took me
things
so
like that.
long to learn that.
Yeah.
But I always say that though. No is a full sentence. No, thank you is a nicer full sentence.
So-
End of discussion.
We're coming to that stage where we need to start wrapping up.
Oh, we went for an hour
I know.
tonight. Our half-hour meeting was an hour tonight because we were talking and talking and talking. Hey.
Not on the camera. No, actually, recovery is our thing, and I missed it on Sunday, and I really get so much out of our meetings. I really get invigorated and feel awesome after we do them. They just are amazing. So Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock, face to face.
And
or FaceTime.
Sunday mornings is a serious meeting. It's a serious recovery meeting. We all share with each other our experience, strength, and hope. We share about what we're going through. We share about how we're feeling about what we're going through. And we learn how to come closer together as a community of people in recovery and learn to help each other.
And also we have by meeting people on Sunday, you've got people that can become accountability buddies, people you get telephone numbers of people you can call. It's a great support meeting. You get to see people face to face. We have people who come online. We have people who telephone in. So it really is a far-reaching. We have people from South Africa and from Israel that call in as well, because that's why we do it on a Sunday morning, because of the time difference. I
And
got
it's
brought
my day
into
off,
recovery
so I
by a
do.
friend. No one should be suffering or in pain or struggling on their own. This is where we come for help, and we really do. We're here to support each other. Whatever they are, our successes, everything we do is a success. The more we can talk about it, the more successful we really are. No matter, even if we see it as a failure in ourselves, it's a success that we are able to share and discuss it.
And we show up and we learn how to work through our fear, and we learn that sometimes when I talk about something that I'm afraid of, that me just speaking helps somebody else as well.
So really, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, and just enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you on Sunday, and we say,
I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery.
and I say, peace out. I am blessed and grateful to be in recovery, and I'm 80.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. That was so cool. Oh, except we can't, we have this little telephone thing that we